Getting proper mental health care can help you feel more like you. That's why Cerebral offers convenient access to online mental health services, including therapy and medication management. Cerebral's diverse clinician team can help with anxiety, insomnia, relationship issues, workplace stress, and more. You can schedule and communicate with your care team through Cerebral's mobile app and attend your sessions from the comfort of your own home. Get started with or without insurance. Plus, you can use your FSA or HSA. Start your first month for 50% off at Cerebral.com/ACAST.
ACAST powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What would you say if I told you there's a book that can teach you how to win The Bachelor?
What would you say if I told you producers caught multiple finalists reading that book in this season that's currently airing?
What would you say if I told you the producers don't want anyone to know that their show has been compromised?
How do we know all this? We wrote that book.
I'm Lizzie Pace.
And I'm Chad Colchin.
We're the authors of How to Win the Bachelor and the hosts of the Game of Roses podcast, a bi-weekly podcast where we break down all the biggest plays, errors, and MVPs in the game of reality television.
Listen to Game of Roses wherever you get your podcasts and go to howtowinthebachelor.com to get our book.
ACAST helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. ACAST.com.
Hi, I'm Dave. This is my wife, Cathy.
Hello.
And you're listening to the Cinemile podcast where we walk home from the movies, but we're not walking anywhere right now because it's Christmas and nobody walks anywhere because they're filled with mince pies and mulled wine and spaghetti
chocolate.
bolognese, which is what we had for dinner. Festive season. And we are joined by a very, very special guest who's flown in just to watch this movie. It's right?
Flown in all the way from Cambridge.
Yes, of course. No. It's Elisabeth, Cathy's sister, frequent guest of the Cinemile. And didn't notice I called you Elisabeth, not Lizzie.
Appreciate that.
You
I actually didn't notice because I do call myself.
Oh, you didn't notice because I just said your name. Right, so we're watching Elf.
Because it's our annual Christmas episode.
Yes.
So what if we last year we watched Muppets Christmas Carol. The year before that we watched Bad Moms Christmas with the Scummy Mummies. I did. And the year before that we watched It's a Wonderful Life. So we've had a good run, excepting Bad Moms Christmas.
Yeah, I think there's a serious exception there to the good run.
You haven't seen this, right? Elf.
I haven't seen this, no. And I haven't seen Bad Moms Christmas either.
And hopefully
but I'm
never will.
only planning on changing one of those things.
Yeah, this is a good movie. It's become an unexpected Christmas hit.
Cult classic, kind of.
Yeah, it is. It kind of is a cult classic.
And
I remember this coming out.
It's a good time to watch it because it's back in the cinemas.
Well, and it's Christmas, but yes, it is. Yes, it is back in cinemas. So, but we did not make the effort to go out and see it.
Why? I don't really understand why you would go see it in the cinema when you can watch it for free at home. Like if it's not.
Your sister did. Your other sister.
Yeah.
But it's not free. It's not free. We pay for Amazon Prime, and it's we use Amazon Prime, but once every 6 months to watch something, and it's finally paying off.
Yeah, Amazon Prime is always the last on the list of right. You'd go to everyone's got their own order, but I think Amazon Prime's the afterthought of streaming services.
I only go there if I know that something's on it or someone's recommended something. It's not something I would like to take to me.
Yeah. It's the maligned. It's the.
Guys, this is great. I'm really loving this festive chat.
It's supposed to be an anti-Amazon Prime.
No, but I'm really excited to watch this. I've only seen it once, and I really liked it when I saw it, but I don't quite remember it. So I'm excited to see it again. And we're all mostly happy that the duration is about 90 minutes.
93 minutes,
which usually includes credits, which means 90.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
3 minutes of credits, you reckon? A lot of people responsible for this movie. Yeah, I'm excited. This is it's a fun movie. Yeah. It's an easy watch. And
I think Lizzie will like it. So Lizzie, you'll have to let us know afterwards. Yeah.
You'll have to. No, you will have to, because you're now on this podcast.
Once you're on the intro, you're contractually obliged to be in the conclusion.
I signed the paperwork. All right.
Okay, so we're feeling very Christmassy. We're trying to get in the festive mood this weekend. We're all wearing film-themed Christmas jumpers. I just noticed.
Perfect for a podcast.
I've got a die-hard one. Dave's wearing Ghostbusters, and Cathy has a Home Alone Christmas jumper on.
Yes, that's very odd.
Okay, we'll take a photo and put it up on our social media at the Cinemile.
Media. As soon as the dinner's abated, we will make mince pies. It's going to happen.
And round 2 of mulled wine.
Yeah, we're well into the mulled. This is hard. It's going to be hard work. Sagging.
We'll get Dave an
here.
espresso before the.
All right. Let's stick this thing on. See you in 93 minutes.
Bye.
Hi.
Your costume is pretty.
Oh, it's not a costume. I'm an elf.
Oh.
Well, technically I'm a human, but I was raised by elves.
New Line Cinema presents the story of one elf who's coming home for Christmas.
Boy, can't wait to see my dad. We're gonna go ice skating and eat sugar plums. Sorry!
Now...
I think someone sent you a Christmas gram.
Dad!
We should call security.
Good idea.
I like to whisper, too.
Buddy's experiencing a world he never knew existed.
Buddy's your son. What am I going to do? He's certifiably insane.
Discovering what it takes to fit in. And going where no elf has gone before.
What he needs is to be nurtured. Bring him home. Introduce him to Emily and Michael.
How long do you think you'll be with us?
I was thinking, like, forever.
He cannot stay here.
We can't just throw him out in the snow.
He loves the snow. He's told me 15 times.
Ow! Son of a nutcracker!
Right, we're back. Unfortunately, a whole day has passed, not 93 minutes, because I drank too much mulled wine and wasn't able to function or talk or stay awake for the end of this movie. But so it's the next day, and we're all out to Sunday lunch. We finished our Sunday lunch, and now we're having some very civilized tea while Oscar naps. So, guys, who wants to talk about Elf? Lizzie, I think you should start. It's your first ever time seeing this movie.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed it, actually, because sometimes Will Ferrell's like comedy wouldn't be for me, but his like, as you say, like he had very physical comedy. He really fit the role of a human playing an elf. So no, I really enjoyed it. I would recommend it as a Christmas movie.
Cool. Cathy, third time watching this?
Second time watching it. Yeah, I really it's just lovely. I mean, it's so heartwarming. Will Ferrell agree. Like, Will Ferrell's a funny actor because he can be in some really, really, really bad movies, like Step Brothers, for example.
Oh, you got to be very careful there. Step Brothers is a beloved classic, held by many people.
I don't enjoy it, but I think it's a kind of humour that we just don't like. Kind of gross.
It's not for me either. And, Cut to hundreds of people switching off. No, but I genuinely, Step Brothers is beloved and quoted.
Okay, well then I'll talk about Holmes and Watson, which is so bad that I watched the first 10 minutes of it and had to turn it off.
Did you watch that?
I watched the first 10
Why?
minutes. Because I saw that it had 1 star and it was on, so I watched the first 10 minutes.
It's funny how a movie gets, if it gets like absolutely slated, it makes you want to watch it more.
Because you want to
like
be
Cats.
Yeah, because it was like 1 star from Rotten Tomatoes, so I was like, oh my god, I have to see it, and I literally couldn't watch it anyway. But when Will Ferrell's in good movies, in great movies, and I think I would class Elf as a great movie. The other movie that Will Ferrell's in that I absolutely love, and it sounds terrible to say I love it because I've forgotten the name.
Stranger Than Fiction.
Absolutely love that movie.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, so he's such a good actor, and he's absolutely perfectly cast in this. So he's playing a 6'4" man who thinks he's an elf, and he really pulls it off. I think a huge part of his performance is very much rooted in toddlers. I saw a lot of toddler behaviour in him that I'm very familiar with. I think James Caan as his dad is brilliant. I think it's lovely. It's wonderfully made by John Favreau. I just think it's a great story. I think it's a really good story, and I think it's executed very well. And actually, at 93 minutes, it was just about pushing. I think any longer, it probably would have dried up a bit. And I find it really sentimental. Like, I think it's an absolutely perfect movie to watch this time of year. Little bit of a quibble with Zooey Chanel. Is that how you say her name? Zooey Deschanel, because she's literally a manic, elfy dream girl. She's like, first of all, she's way younger than Will Ferrell, which I always just like. We looked it up. I think it was 13 years, but it's not commented on as per usual in these movies. And she just existed to sing and then be supportive of him. And it is pretty odd that she would choose to date him.
I guess they were dating, were they?
Yeah.
They go on a date. They have a date montage in the middle, which ends in a kiss, and she says, "You missed."
Yeah, that's true.
Should we say spoilers maybe for Elf? Spoilers for Elf.
Yeah.
They're 100% dating, and then at the end they have a baby.
Yeah. So
I completely forgot about that. Yeah.
So I think that's usually preceded by dating.
Yes.
I mean, not always.
But yeah, so basically, that's the only character I thought it's a shame that she was so underwritten and underused, because she's a very good actress. But other than that, yeah, I really liked it. I mean, it's so heartwarming, and I think it's such a great family movie, like for all ages. Like I know my little niece and nephew went to see it recently. They loved it. I think you could probably show it to a 70-year-old. They'd love it. It's that exactly cross-generational thing that I think a really good Christmas movie like Home Alone can do.
Yeah. We should show this to a 70-year-old.
We should, yeah, and get them to record a review for us. So yeah, anyway, I'm delighted we watched it. I loved it, and because I wasn't drinking loads of beer and mulled wine, was able to stay awake for it.
A nice blend of loads of different genres as well, I thought.
Yeah,
like had elements of like Scrooged and kind of Wizard of Oz kind of fantasy vibes.
Yeah,
like the setting was really nice. Like the contrast between when he moves to New York and like his like lollipop dreamland where he lives in the North Pole.
Yeah.
It's really nice to watch.
It's a fish out of water story, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which are always fun.
It's kind of like any of those, like even like that new Christmas movie, like The Night Before Christmas or whatever. It's just anything like that, like a person in a...
What is that? All I saw of that was a poster, and then I just tweeted about it without anything about. But I feel like I could imagine what that movie's
to do
about.
With some sort of medieval landing in New York. I haven't seen it either.
Oh right, okay.
I just imagine it's like that.
Yeah.
It's definitely of the quality of Elf for sure.
I liked it as I think it's a lovely movie. Really, it's just such an easy watch. It's very sweet and heartwarming and funny. Like we were all laughing several times. I mean, watching it again this time with like knowing that we were doing a podcast about it, I was trying to pay maybe closer scrutiny to it, like where are the cracks. What's this movie not doing well? And there are things, I even wrote down a few things, but it almost feels like why even talk about that?
Yeah.
Like it's just such a lovely, innocuous, and with it's just got a sweet core at the centre of it. Something like, which is interesting because we watched Bad Santa last week for the first time, which I also really enjoyed. But these movies could not be further apart. Even though you could see how they could end up being, being generated from a very similar idea.
Similar people would like them, I guess.
Yeah, I think, yes, exactly. They're both sort of comedies, but one goes raunchy, one goes sort of sweet.
It's like
and
the most
innocent.
wholesome movie, yeah.
It is wholesome because Will Ferrell's performance is just rooted in childhood innocence. It's what if you took, and that's where the comedy, most of the comedy comes from, is the contrast of a grown man who essentially has the mind of a child who thinks he's an elf and is seeing our world for the first time. Like the simplest, like one of my favourite bits of comedy, and Will Ferrell, well, as we know, is good at comedy, but in particular the physical comedy, is him trying to go up an escalator, having never seen an escalator in his life, and him
doing the splits.
Doing the splits, but the way he first approaches it,
yeah.
And you mentioned toddlers, Cathy, and it's funny because I've seen this through Oscar, our son's eyes, seeing an escalator for the first time, and he still loves escalators, but it's just like approaching it with this sense of awe and then fear. And then, so like Will Ferrell's like that. He goes there and like walks back from it and then tries to figure out how to approach it. It's just wonderful, but it's exactly relatable because that's what somebody in this nonsense situation would do.
And the junk food, like we forgot to mention like how much junk food is consumed in this movie. And so funny because we said last night we had just eaten spaghetti bolognese, and this whole spaghetti scene where he's like pouring maple syrup on the spaghetti and pouring sweets in the spaghetti, and it's like that is what a kid could, if a kid was given free reign of a kitchen, like that is literally what they would do with the sugar and the sweets and the maple syrup
and the spaghetti.
He just puts it on everything. So yeah, that was so fun.
So like, all right, if I let me just get it out of my system then.
Now, you said you weren't going to say anything bad, but now you have to say it because you made the note.
I said you shouldn't really. I mean,
but you're going to.
And this is I'm going to.
Well,
but
analysing.
This is with the caveat of it doesn't matter. Like none of this matters.
Yeah.
I think, and I think Jon Favreau does a really impressive job of bringing this thing to life. Really, it's him and Will Ferrell and James Caan are kind of doing all the hard work here. I felt like Mary Steenburgen, is it? What's her name? Ted Danson's wife.
Mary Steinberg, I think.
Steinbergen. I forget her name.
Didn't know she was married to Ted Danson though. That's a fun
fact.
fact.
There you go. There's a little pre-fun fact for you. She's
not given anything, but the female characters are completely underwritten.
Completely underwritten.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you said
to
about Zooey Deschanel. Like, couldn't tell you two things about her character because they didn't give her two things. They gave her one thing. She likes to sing. and that's all there is about her.
And she's in financial trouble and has to shower at work.
Yeah, but that's never even touched upon
No,
again.
they don't mention
that's
that.
just
no.
like a line to make us sympathise with her.
That's like pretty hardcore. Like, she's had her heating turned off. She has to shower at work. Like, that's quite sad. And then it's like, oh, she just sings like an angel.
But actually, if I was to look at this and say, right, we've got 90 minutes, which is a good length for this movie, and it doesn't outstay its welcome, cut the romantic plot entirely. It doesn't actually add anything.
No,
it's
nothing.
not required. It doesn't further Buddy's character.
No.
Because the core of this story is his relationship with his father. And if they'd given a few more scenes to allow that to breathe, I think the emotional payoff at the end would have been more worthwhile, because the plot bits are actually a little rushed. Like essentially the payoff with his father choosing Buddy over work felt very split second to me. Like he hadn't been on that road to being charmed and falling in love with Will Ferrell.
I think without Zoe Deschanel, there would have been no aspect of seeing Buddy's real character in New York, because she was the only person that would go along with his like joyful Christmassy character. Everybody else was resisting it. So without her, I think,
true. Maybe he would have felt a little too alien.
and I don't think
or
it
out
would
of
have
place.
been as fun to watch. I don't know. You'd only be watching his struggle. You wouldn't really watching any like kind of happiness for him until his family accepted him.
But wasn't Mary,
that's a fair point, actually.
Wasn't James Caan's wife kind of that character as well, though? But they just didn't really let her do it, and
She
and
had
their
to go to
kids
work all the time. She had a budget meeting or something.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they live in Central Park West, so the rent's high.
Yeah, there's maybe just a few too many characters for a 90-minute movie, potentially.
I don't know. I don't think there's too many. I think they could. It's very easy to give somebody a few more lines, you know, in that kind of a space of movie. But it's Will. At the end of the day, it's Will Ferrell's movie, and he's wonderful.
And look, again, these are minor quibbles. But ultimately, it's a.
And it has that lovely,
it's a great watch.
Lovely
It's so
Christmas music, and like that sounds like a really basic, right thing to say about a Christmas movie. But Elisabeth and Dave have not seen Last Christmas, which I had the utter pleasure of watching a couple of weeks ago. And Last Christmas has no Christmas music in it except for Last Christmas. The rest of the movie is all George Michael, and it's weirdly lacking any sort of festive or ambience. There's a brief scene where she does some busking and she sings Christmas songs for like maybe 30 seconds. And it's really lacking. You realise that's like the core of a Christmas movie, is to have that stuff on in the background, and it just felt so festive. I think also the New York setting is a lovely one for Christmas. Like I don't know why I feel like that. I think it's a very common setting that we've seen Christmas movies in. Of course I can't name any now, aside from Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Scrooge is set in New York, isn't it? Like there's loads of movies set in New York, and it just feels festive. And it's like we were yesterday, we just went out, we didn't know like shopping to do or anything, so we just went around some of the shops, because it is a lovely time to be around like music and people at Christmas. And like now we're just in a pub having some tea and had a Sunday roast, because it just feels really festive, and that movie felt like that.
It's funny though, because setting it in New York, you get most of it set in a store called Grimble's, which we discovered.
Yeah, it's like a department store like Macy's or whatever, but shut down like 15 years before they made Elf, so they just did it for memories, I think.
So we think
you
that
guys are giving me a bit of a lead in here.
Oh, Kathy's got some fun facts for us. Okay.
Right, so for anyone who subscribes to our Patreon, you will know that we do retro movie reviews every month, and Dave's tasked with doing fun facts. But today I've been tasked with doing the fun facts.
And good luck to you, because all you do is criticise me and say, "Oh, that's not very fun."
Yeah, but the difference between when you're doing fun facts for the Patreon and I'm doing them for this is people are paying for the Patreon and this is free. So
these are not going to be any good.
Rubbish.
Yeah.
No, my facts are good, but I will credit now where credit is due. They all come from an article on Mental Floss called 21 Full Facts About Elf.
Yeah.
So I'm not pretending.
The first thing that comes up when you Google fun facts.
I'm not
Elf.
pretending I've done. Whereas when we do Patreon, Dave deep dives and actually does a lot of research. So Dave,
I verify a lot of it.
Credit where credit's due. Yeah. I've not verified. I'm presuming these guys have done the job. Okay. So what
Let's hope Mental Floss is accredited.
Must check mentalfloss.com out.
So are you ready for the fun facts? So actually we were all a bit confused by the Gimbals thing, because Elisabeth googled it, because we were like, is it a real shop? And turned out it shut down. But they actually shot it in Macy's, which was a rival of Gimbals when Gimbals was open. But I think the reason that they set it in Gimbals.
Getting proper mental health care can help you feel more like you. That's why Cerebral offers convenient access to online mental health services, including therapy and medication management. Cerebral's diverse clinician team can help with anxiety, insomnia, relationship issues, workplace stress, and more. You can schedule and communicate with your care team through Cerebral's mobile app and attend your sessions from the comfort of your own home. Get started with or without insurance. Plus, you can use your FSA or HSA. Start your first month for 50% off at Cerebral.com/ACAST.
It was an homage because in the 1947 Miracle on 34th Street, that was in Gimbals. And that's an extra fun fact for us because over lunch Elisabeth was asking what year Miracle on 34th Street was and we didn't know. So now we know. It was 1947. I thought it was in the late 30s. So there's your first fun fact. Jim Carrey was originally cast in the role when the spec script was flying around in 1993. So like a decade before this movie was actually made.
That's so funny because I was watching this imagining Jim Carrey. You can see it's actually if you had this script in 93 off the back of Ace Ventura.
No, it was pre-Ace Ventura.
Or Liar Liar's 94, I think, is it?
Yeah.
It's like at the beginning of his career when he was huge, basically.
But I think like Jim Carrey is a very good physical actor as well, but he doesn't have the like wholesome innocence that Will Ferrell can offer.
I
think he would
completely
have
agree.
Seemed a bit. I don't think he would have
edgy.
been as good.
There's a sort of there's a manic edge.
It's manic. Yeah, he's always a bit manic, whereas Will Ferrell is like just kind of. He's just acting as he thinks as normally and quite innocently and nicely. He's not actually trying to be.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would have been a very different performance, and that you would have lost that sweet childlike thing.
Think so, yeah.
You would have just had a fucking lunatic dressed as an elf,
Will Ferrell actually looks like a child in it.
Well, interestingly, he ended up going on to play the Grinch, which maybe suited him better. That being said, I think he's very, very sweet in the Truman Show.
Oh no! Sorry, don't get me wrong. I think Jim Carrey's a fantastic actor.
No, I'm saying he can do sweetness in the Truman Show. He's very sweet.
True, and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, he's very endearing. But sweet, that's a different kind of sweet and endearing. Like Will Ferrell has this wide-eyed
he pulls
sort of
it off.
like.
It doesn't feel condescending. Like when Will Ferrell does it, it could very quickly broach into something else. But yeah, so basically they made it a decade later, and at that point, Will Ferrell was like kicking off because of Saturday Night Live, so he got the role. So, another fun fact is that Jon Favreau favoured practical effects, and specifically, this included stop-motion animation.
Oh yeah, you get a lot of the snowman and the penguins and all that. I like that because that felt like a throwback to old holiday classics.
Yeah, and they also used forced perspective to make Buddy look like a giant among his elf peers. For the North Pole scenes, I'm reading this now, 2 sets were built.
Yes, we can tell.
Yeah,
we know what a reading voice sounds like.
2 sets were built, one larger scale for actors playing elves, the other smaller to make Buddy and Santa look big. These elements were then carefully overlaid in camera using lighting to blend the seams.
That's clever. It's very effective.
It was very effective because one second they would look the same size and then suddenly it was like one was growing and one was shrinking, but it was like seamless.
Yeah. It's interesting what you said about the feeling of like Wizard of Oz, because it does have that really surreal feeling. Like I love, like we were talking about Jon Favreau, he's had some career, like we're like he's made Swingers, he's made this, he's made like The Jungle Book,
The Lion King, Iron Man.
He's made
it's a very varied career.
But if you completely took away his directing career, he's been an amazing actor in loads of stuff as well. Like, so it's just
and he has a cameo in this as the Doctor.
Yeah, and apparently he had some other cameos as well. I saw that when I was researching the fun facts, but I skimmed over them, so apologies.
He had other cameos in this movie?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
Like including them. Is there a little raccoon that Will Ferrell has a fight with?
Oh, Jon Favreau plays the raccoon. Yeah. He voiced the raccoon.
The raccoon.
So he's just going Lizzie had a good point though, because he plays a doctor.
Oh yeah,
doing the
not very
DNA
fun
test.
but science fact.
Oh yeah, so
you are our science correspondent.
Elisabeth's currently doing a PhD in science, so she's highly qualified to tell us this.
So when Buddy,
Cambridge, very prestigious.
Thank you. When Buddy approaches his dad and says, "I'm your son," his dad is obviously like, "Well," and takes him to Jon Favreau for a DNA test, which apparently GPs can do in the 90s or when was it 2000s. But basically on the spot they do a DNA test and tell him that Buddy's his son. But I really think that would take quite a few hours in a lab.
Weeks, probably. You'd have to send away for it to a different lab.
I mean, you don't need to explain to Elisabeth.
If I had like I think if I had the protocol and the machinery and the samples in front of me, you could do it in like an afternoon, maybe a day. But definitely not on the spot. So. I think Jon Favreau was just like, why don't we just say that this elf is this guy's kid? You know?
I mean, to be fair, Buddy is waiting in a waiting room next to a girl, so maybe they were there a few hours. I'm being generous. I don't think that.
Jon Favreau, James Caan needs to get back to work to do his bad children's books. So he doesn't have time for that.
I love it. Can we talk about that for a second? Like, James Caan, he's supposed to be this like beleaguered, put upon guy, and we're like, oh, the poor guy is really stressed, and he's like, he's just lazy. He signed off those 2 pages that were blank and doesn't give a shit. Like, he's not good at his job.
I think his department's in a bit of financial trouble, and he said he would take a $30,000 loss if they reprinted the books, and I guess that would have been a lot then.
Yes.
But obviously,
but it's his fault.
Obviously, long term, that is
he
worse.
should be fired.
Yes, he should.
You shouldn't have your office in the Empire State Building where rent must be pretty high.
I know, right?
If you're facing financial
2003 was the height of children's publishing. They were in the centre of capitalism in New York City.
Anyway, back to the fun facts. Even though Jon Favreau favoured practical effects, snowflakes were added in post. And because
I'm
they
having
did that,
so much fun right now. I just wanted to
because you know that scene where like Buddy's having a massive snow fight with his little brother in Central Park. They obviously that was all fake, and Jon Favreau.
So it's not Central Park. They just
no, they were in Central Park. But basically, Jon Favreau wanted it to feel like a bit of a western, so we got the composer John Debney to give this section a western vibe to recall the Magnificent Seven. Apparently,
the score was lovely.
It was lovely, yeah, the music. But what's interesting, I've just realised about that is, so Buddy thinks he's an elf, obviously, but he's a human. But there are a few times in the movie where he has supernatural powers.
No, I think it's just that he spent his whole life having snowball fights.
No, because like he can make 85 Etch-a-Sketches in a day. Like he can make so many like paper streamers overnight. He can decorate a whole thing, make loads of cookies. Like he has.
But he sleeps only 40 minutes a night.
Only 40 minutes a night. He has like an altered use of time. Like he can do things much quicker than people.
Well, yeah, because they did say that like he's. Will Ferrell was like 37 or something in this movie, so but he was in school in the scenes we saw him in, so it's like we were saying in elvish time is different. It's like dog years or whatever.
Well, they said his dad Papa Elf was 450.
Yeah, so I guess you're right, he learned his brain was rewired a different way from the magnificence of the North Pole. Buddy in an earlier version of the script was actually being bullied in Elfland, which is one of the reasons he wanted to go to New York, but Jon Favreau pushed back on that and said it doesn't work. If you want Buddy to be as sweet a character as he is and as innocent, he needs to have only ever experienced kindness, so that when he comes to New York there's such a contrast between elf and like kind of North Pole. So I think that like Jon Favreau obviously made some very good add-ons to the script as well.
That's like you said, he wrote Swingers. I can't think of anything else that comes to mind. Maid maybe, but he's a writer. Like he's
everything.
He's a triple threat.
he's
except does he sing and dance?
Probably. We need to get him on the podcast.
He can ultimate fight, like you've seen Friends, right?
Yes.
Slightly interesting. Most of it was shot on a Vancouver soundstage, but they did actually shoot on scene in Manhattan for things like the Central Park stuff and the city stuff.
It's funny because you think Central Park would be one place you don't need to film on set because it's just a park, right?
I guess they just wanted it to feel authentic. And then something we noticed, there's a mailroom scene when Buddy goes and gets like drunk, and the drinking buddy says, "I'm 26," and we all went, "Huh, that was really weird." Apparently that was like a specific joke that they'd put in just to show like for the laugh, and the studio execs didn't get it either, and they were like, "Why is this guy saying he's 26?" and we didn't get it.
So what's the answer?
The answer is it's just for the laugh to have an old person saying he's 26.
That's just, it's not funny, it's just confusing.
Maybe kind of a comment on the fact that people play things that are not their right age. Like Will Ferrell is also really old.
Or is it saying that like this is what happens to you if you work for a few years in the mailroom?
I know those people did look quite sad down there.
No, but it was more that he was an alcoholic, I think. And then there's a scene with Jack in the Boxes when Will Ferrell's like reacting to Jack in the Boxes. They actually, apparently Jon Favreau was controlling them from a different room with the remote, so he was genuinely surprising Will Ferrell when they popped up. And then there's that really lovely scene where like Will Ferrell is like in New York and he's like leapfrogging across a pedestrian crossing. Yeah, he's getting his shoes shined and he's accepting flyers. That was actually in the final days of shooting the movie. Just Will Ferrell, Jon Favreau and one cameraman went out, and Will Ferrell just actually frolicked around New York in costume, and that's how they captured it. Which is why, I mean, you'd have to be such a performer to be able to even do that with like around real people and
not be mortified.
Yeah. And then this is the biggie, because it's been such a hit, and it's such a classic now. According to The Guardian, Will Ferrell was offered...
Wait, sorry, not mentalfloss.com?
They deep linked to The Guardian.
Credit where credit's due.
Yeah, credit. I mean, I will always credit a journalistic source. He turned down $29 million to do a sequel. Yeah, even though he's obviously done sequels to other things like that haven't been very well received, like Zoolander, but I guess to him it's very special, and he said there's no way I'm going to go dressed like an old Buddy in like tights and like and he said like I don't think the movie should be remade. So like that's actually That's good, because so often
Good
actors
choice.
do make sequels to these, to movies, and you just wish they'd never, and they just left it alone. And one of the things that makes a movie a classic, I think, is to just leave it alone.
Movies are often much better when there's just one of them.
Yeah, that's how Bill Murray felt about Ghostbusters after they'd made a second one, mind you. But in general, he's
so
like,
after he made
we've
it
done
taking
enough
the money,
now.
he was like, nah, regret that.
But that's the end of my fun facts. And Dave, I applaud
Good
you
job.
for usually doing that. It's hard work.
It is hard work.
Yeah.
Hard to get out a list from mentalfloss.com.
Honestly, I had to read it, then I had to make the list smaller because I didn't use all the facts, and then I had to repeat them.
And then, because you were using my phone to look at it, but you wanted to read off your phone, you had to take a picture of my screen instead of screenshotting it.
Dave, this
It's
is
a lot of
hard.
steps. A lot of steps to this podcast getting made. People think it's easy. Just turn on the thing.
But thank you so much, Elizabeth, for joining
No
us.
problem.
We're so
So
Yes.
lovely to be here.
And thanks for watching Elf for the first time. And
I'm so glad I did. 'Cause
will you
I-
watch it every Christmas day?
Maybe. Maybe it can go into my repertoire.
And for anyone else who wants to hear, Elisabeth was on our last Patreon episode, where we watched, or a couple of episodes ago, where we watched The Rock.
Yeah.
And Elisabeth was also giving us some scientific fun facts on that.
The Michael
So,
Bay's movie, The
yeah.
Rock. We didn't just watch pictures of...
Elizabeth's good value
I
with
feel
a
like
guest.
the scientific fun facts are actually, they're anti-fun facts. They take away from the plot of the movie.
Yeah, it's just learning.
It's debunking.
Now this podcast is about learning. I'm going to put you on the spot now, Elizabeth. What is your favourite Christmas movie ever? What's the one you would stick on right now if you were settling in and we hadn't said you're watching Elf?
I think it's generally, for me, Love Actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably the one I've rewatched the most.
Yeah.
And I've watched it as early as... Me and my friend Emer used to watch it often in the October midterm at Halloween and get all Christmassy. So that's the one that really puts me in the mood, because also it reminds me of going home for Christmas. Because I've got those lovely Heathrow scenes.
I'm going to put this out there about Love Actually, because I really like Love Actually as well. But I think Love Actually is a Christmas movie the way Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
No.
I.e.
absolutely mental.
I.e. it's not really about Christmas. Christmas is texture.
I think a lot of the plots actually focus around Christmas.
Yeah, Dave, do you remember the movie? Remember that it's literally set around
Yeah, but it's
Christmas
set at
parties,
Christmas.
Christmas gifting.
But that's texture. That's all texture. The movie's about relationships.
Yeah, it's about relationships.
But
And I mean,
any
so is
movie's about-
Elf.
Dave, Home Alone is about
No,
someone
but-
trying to travel home to get their kid.
Yes, but
The
Elf is
Christmas
about the
texture.
spirit of Christmas.
Christmas is texture.
Thanks for
You couldn't replace,
sarcastically
you couldn't
revealing what I
replace
said.
Christmas in Love Actually with something else and it still hold up. What would Bill Nye
Halloween.
be singing? Halloween is all around us.
Yeah, and he'd be like, he'd give his wife a trick-or-treat present.
No, Dave, you're
Sorry,
absolutely
Dave.
categorical.
Or I meant Alan
What's
Rickman.
your favourite Christmas movie? And don't say Die Hard.
Scrooged.
Scrooge is a great one, and
That is a
actually
Christmas
I haven't seen that in years, and this kind of inspired me to watch it because James Caan really reminded me of Bill Murray.
Yeah, he's like that. Dave's pointing the thing at me now. I don't have favourites, and I don't play favourites.
And that's been our podcast. Thanks for listening. We are at The Cinemile on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. As you know, we do not play favourites, so do not expect
They love all of their
favourites.
listeners equally.
Hey, what's all of your Christmas movies? I'm looking into the microphone, so I presume you can all tell that I'm addressing you now. Let us know at The Cinemile, or email us, thecinemile@gmail.com.
And everyone have a lovely Christmas. Thank you
Yes.
so much. Yes.
And thank you everyone for listening to us again
Another year.
for another
It's our
year.
fourth Christmas episode, which
Yeah,
is amazing.
we love doing
Yeah,
this show,
we love it so
and we
much.
love talking to you guys.
And we our family must hate visiting us because you're coming in our door and you're doing a podcast, don't
I'm
you?
either babysitting so that you can podcast, or I'm on the podcast, or I'm watching Dave sit in the corner quietly editing a podcast.
This is
But
our life now.
I love every bit of it.
All right, thanks, Lizzie.
No
Merry
problem.
Christmas, everyone.
Bye, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
You're a big boy. What's your name?
Paul.
And what can I
Paul.
get you for Christmas?
Don't tell him what you want. He's a liar.
Let the kid talk.
You disgust me. How can you live with yourself?
Just cool it, Zippy.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Hi, I'm back to add to me slave driving my family over the podcast. My little niece and nephew watched it twice in the last week, and they actually sent us a recording of their review. So their names are Niamh and Killian. They're from Scotland, so they've got lovely little Scottish accents. And you'll also hear my sister Sarah's voice. Some of you will remember her from our Hustlers review earlier this year. Enjoy, bye.
And who's the nicest person in the movie, Killian?
Buddy.
Why was he nice?
Because he cared about everybody.
And who was the meanest person in the movie? On Eve's turn.
small guy.
The small guy?
Yes. Miles' friend.
Why was he not nice?
Because he took him that way, and he took him that way, and that way, and he said, call me Elf, and she actually called him Elf, but that means call him Elf, and he actually did call him Elf, and then he pushed him, like, off the table, like...
If they can't see you have to use words.
They pushed him off to the side.
And who else was nice in the movie?
Santa. Santa Claus is coming to Auntie Jackie's and Auntie Elisabeth.
And Killian, who else was nice in the movie? Michael, why was he nice?
Because he told his dad that Buddy was missing.
Yes. What song did they sing to get the sleigh to fly? Can you both sing it?
Santa Claus is coming to town.
You better watch out.
You better not go.
You better watch out, I'm telling you why. Santa
Claus is coming to town.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What would you say if I told you there's a book that can teach you how to win The Bachelor?
What would you say if I told you producers caught multiple finalists reading that book in this season that's currently airing?
What would you say if I told you the producers don't want anyone to know that their show has been compromised?
How do we know all this? We wrote that book.
I'm Lizzie Pace.
And I'm Chad Kulchin.
We're the authors of How to Win the Bachelor and the hosts of the Game of Roses podcast, a bi-weekly podcast where we break down all the biggest plays, errors, and MVPs in the game of reality television.
Listen to Game of Roses wherever you get your podcasts and go to howtowinthebachelor.com to get our book.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.